And the format is that in the morning they get 3 minutes of pitching and 5 minutes of Q&A. The Q&A, Armando, why don't you come up? Armando and I are going to drill them with questions for about 5 minutes. And then you guys vote, and the top 3 teams then get to pitch the investor panel in the afternoon, and then the winner's picked. Armando, you want to give a quick intro about your background and why you're here?
Hi, everyone. I'm first and foremost an operator. I co-founded and sold a couple of companies, the latest of which was Ad Espresso, which we sold to Hootsuite. You may have heard of them. They are the largest social media manager solution out there. Very, very good outcome. So, everyone very happy. I'm also an angel investor. I invested in about 75 companies at this point. So I'm really at the intersection between being an operator and being an investor. As an operator, my background is essentially the COO profile. So what I'm excited about and interested in, where I spend the vast majority of my time, is how you build and scale organizations around products that work. And really, my superpower, if you had to think about what the intersection of what I do is between product marketing on one side, BCD, so business and corp dev on the other, and then operations and growth, of course. So excited to be here, and let's get this started.
Okay, so holistic air. So again, 3 minutes, 3 slides, really quick. We're going to ask some questions, and then you guys get to vote.
Hello, everyone. My name is Marie Lee, and I am a founder of Holistic Air. The face mask industry has a market size of over $2.7 billion and is on track to grow to over $4 billion by 2022. And that's because 9 out of 10 people live in areas that are affected by bad air quality. The face mask is their only defense against outdoor air pollution. In India, China, and other parts of the world, wearing a mask is a part of daily life. 4.7 million people die from outdoor air pollution every year. 76% of the masks on the market don't actually work. And that's because 3 out of 4 people wear them incorrectly. They look easy enough to put on. But unfortunately, if the mask isn't sealed properly on your face, fine dust particles can still get in. And even if you do get it on right, the high levels of carbon dioxide trapped inside your mask is also dangerous. That's why we created Respire, the first ever wearable device that protects you from the inside of your mask, ensuring that your mask can protect you from the outside. Holistic Air's Respire is one of those devices that will change the mask industry. It is small, lightweight, easy to use. It tells you if your mask is sealed properly, and it alerts users when they've reached unhealthy levels of carbon dioxide. Finally, giving people access to data that can help save lives. Our prototype currently is undergoing user tests, and the results are really great. We're here today to ask for your help in getting Respire into the hands of mask users everywhere. This way, we can educate and save lives together. Our team won first place in the Seoul Hardware Hackathon this past March. We've also been awarded support from the Korean government in the form of grants and multiple accelerator programs. Our crowdfunding campaign starts this fall, and if it's successful, will become our gateway into markets all over the world. We hope that you'll vote for our team, Team Holistic Air, and help us continue to innovate so that we can make the world a more livable place. Thank you very much.
So thank you for being here. A couple of questions.
Yes.
What is the product, actually? Is just the detector or is the whole mask?
No, it's actually a small device that you can apply to any type of mask that you want. So, unfortunately, in Asia and other parts of the world, wearing a mask is part of fashion.
Right.
Because you have to wear it so often. And so we decided to create just the device that you can apply to any type of mask so that it's interchangeable. And oftentimes, masks also have to be replaced because the filters get dirty. So this way, you can keep using this device for a long time.
So essentially, you buy the device, and then there is an app on your phone that helps you track what's happening.
Yes.
Is that right?
Yes. The app tells you if your mask is sealed, which is incredibly important. Otherwise, your mask is useless.
Right.
And then it also tracks over a course of time how much carbon dioxide you've inhaled. Because carbon dioxide in general is not bad for you. But over long periods of time, the high levels that you're wearing the mask for can be really dangerous. It can even result in heart attacks for people that have heart diseases or respiratory diseases.
How long have you been working on this?
We just started in March, so we've been
nice.
going really fast. Our engineers are working on improving our prototypes so we can actually take it to manufacturing. And so this fall, we're going to start our crowdfunding campaign.
Awesome. And in terms of monetization model, how are you guys thinking about it?
Selling the device, you mean?
Yeah, price point and
Oh.
how the business model works. Do you guys have some early data around it, or still something that needs to be discovered?
Right. We've already looked at pricing in terms of creating the device, and for retail market, we're thinking about $79 per unit. It can be used for long periods of time. It's relative to the price of most masks that you have on the market right now. The cost of creating device is probably about $6 per unit.
Okay. And then is there a recurring model in terms of like getting data from the app or additional services that you can get from the app?
Absolutely. I mean, that's our whole goal, is to continue to innovate so that it can do more things. And that long-term data isn't really being collected by anybody. So I believe that that information will be extremely useful for people.
Interesting. And one of the things that may be interesting for the audience, and I'm curious about as well, when it comes to different geographies, how do you guys think about it? In the sense that I can see, like for Asia, this being a very strong need. How do you think about Europe, or how do you think about the US or North America in general?
Well, we're very lucky here in the United States. In South Korea, where I live, we've just come here for this conference, there's only about 45 days of clean air. All other days, our sky looks like this. It's gray. It's really quite incredible. In Los Angeles, where I grew up here in the Bay Area, we grew up thinking it was the worst smog problem in Los Angeles. But in Los Angeles, it's still over 300 days of clean air, right? So, and Seoul doesn't have the worst quality air in the world. It's up there, but you've got India, you've got China, Beijing and Shanghai. So those are also great markets for us too. In terms of Europe, I think this could also be a product that could be useful there too.
And when you say Asia, 45 days of clean air, does that apply to big cities only, or to which extent even like smaller geographies or areas can be impacted by this?
Oh, we're talking about the whole peninsula.
Okay.
The whole peninsula. A lot of the air, depending on who you ask, some people say it blows over from China, but there's also a lot of coal production in Korea.
So assuming the strong go-to-market and focus, at least initially, is going to be in Asia for you guys.
That's where we'd like to start. The reason why we chose Korea, not just because I live there, is because Korea creates a lot of great healthcare products. There's a lot of credibility in it. So as compared to creating a product in China and selling it, I think is a lot more complicated. The Chinese love Korean products. India, they like Korean products. So we just think it's a great way to start there.
Yeah. A couple more questions from my side. So one, go-to-market. How are you thinking about reaching your potential customers, if you put some thoughts around that already?
So, I mean, our initial thought right now is to start our crowdfunding campaign this fall, and part of that is marketing, right? So, getting it out there, getting users using it, having them give us great feedback, hopefully, and that will, time is up, but that will hopefully help us expand to other parts of the world as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Great. Okay, my buddy AI.
Hello, my name is Ivan. I'm the co-founder and CEO of MyBodyAI, and we're building the voice-based AI English tutor for kids. We help children practice spoken English by talking with a virtual AI-powered character, just like they would talk with human tutor. So meet Buddy. Oh,
Hello, Ivan.
hi, Buddy.
How are you?
I'm great, and you?
I'm great. Thank you. Do you want to play dinosaurs?
I'm a bit busy now.
Bye-bye. See you later.
Bye. So, you see, there are like 500 million children are trying to learn English every year, including 20 million immigrant children here in the US, like my daughter, Sophia. And the problem is only a tiny percentage of these children are able to reach fluency because of a lack of speaking practice. Of course, there are like tons of English learning apps and websites, but it turns out that the only way to practice speaking online is through tutoring platforms that connect children and teachers via video conferencing, and they charge $20 to $25 per lesson, which is like too expensive for most families, right? So to solve this problem, we've developed a natural language processing technology which enables us to provide 90% of human tutoring instruction at only 2% of the cost. We launched a year ago and already generated over $160,000 in subscription revenue. We are growing 20% month over month with positive unit economics, and so we made $24,000 in May, and we already made $20,000 in June, so growing pretty fast. We're a small team of only 4 people, but we have the experience of building powerful voice-first products. Before MyBodyAI, I worked at Cubic AI, where we built an Amazon Echo-like smart speaker, and it was acquired by Yandex. So now we're raising $1.2 million to reach 1 million ARR early next year, advance the product, and build partnerships with schools and device manufacturers. So join us on a mission, and I hope our children, the next generation, will be able to really speak to each other. Thank you.
Oh.
Awesome, thank you. Want to start or want me to go?
Sure. Oh, sorry. So obviously, a crowded space. How do you envision kind of this idea of partnerships? It's not easy to get a device manufacturer to preload your app, but how do you envision your?
So actually, the space looks crowded, and there are tons of learning apps, but no one is actually focused on speaking practice because it's like super hard thing. So a lot of apps offer pronunciation training, but none of them is focused on speaking practice. It's the first thing. And then secondly, so we focused on children, and in this space, we only compete with one company, actually. We have only one, like a strong competitor, which is a game, and they don't have like a voice at all.
What's the name of the company?
It's Lingo Kids.
Okay.
Yeah, so about partnerships, so we already signed the partnership for 200,000 pre-installs with the manufacturers of compact projectors. It's called Cinemode, and we're also talking with manufacturers of tablets for kids in Mexico.
Okay. So one question from my side to just narrow down a second the target customer. You were talking about 500 million kids.
Yeah.
You're thinking not every kid, but kids from immigrants into the United States, or kids from abroad the United States that want to learn English, or like kids in general?
It's fair to say that like every child on the planet learn English. Like 99%. Like in China, Russia, Korea, children learn English as a foreign language, and in the US,
right,
children just learn English as their main primary language. So our main focus is now on the children who learn English as a foreign language. Mm-hmm. So most of our users today are from Europe and Korea.
How many users do you have right now?
we have around 3,000 paying subscribers and around 30,000 monthly active users.
Wow, okay.
And we have 27,000 user reviews, and almost all of which are 5-star ratings.
Awesome. Business model. So how does it work?
So currently we charge $8 for weekly subscription.
Okay.
But most of our users prefer $50 like per annual plan, so they prepay.
Right.
Yeah, but we are constantly experimenting with prices, and it's not like a final pricing. So we run A/B tests like every week.
Okay. Another question from my side, talking about business model and kids. This can be a fairly delicate topic in the sense that you want to be careful around how add-ons are purchased on kid apps, and this is something that people are always very sensitive about.
Sure.
How do you think about it?
That's why we prefer subscription.
Okay.
So you subscribe once, and then we do not try to upsell you anything.
Okay.
How do you train the language, the training model? What do you use? Do you work with psychiatrists or educators?
Are you talking about curriculum or AI part?
I guess both.
So for AI part, we gather like tons of data. So last year, we had like 1 million minutes of conversations. So it's like a lot of data to train our AI. And about the curriculum part, so we have 2 PhDs, one in psychology and the other one is in education sciences, who are working with us on learning plan and curriculum. Yeah.
And talking about content, so to have a weekly or even an annual subscription, you have to keep the content fresh, right? How do you think about it? How does that work within your app?
So we built, we call it like a content machine. So when you have AI, you can reuse a lot of your content. So basically, a lot of things that children do in our app now is like vocabulary and pronunciation. And once you learn the word, then you have to really remember it. You need to repeat it like for multiple times, and we use like, so yeah, so now we have a lot of content so we have enough content for a year already.
Okay.
But it's still an MVP, like 1% of what we want to build. And so that's one of the reasons we are raising money now, so to advance the product.
Okay. And how do customers find about you? Or parents of?
60% of our users we acquire via Facebook and Google Ads, and 25% is like word of mouth referrals.
Okay.
All other is like search, and we've been featured on the App Store like a lot of times.
Okay. Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you. Okay. Thank you. That's great. All right, Nicholas, Palette Club.
Hi, everybody. I'm Nicolas Mandiara. I'm the founder of Palette Club. So wine is a very crazy, huge market, 360 billion worldwide, and it is very confusing with a lot of frictions. It's a market where 100,000 wineries bring to the market 1 million different labels and products every year to 1 billion consumers who don't understand them. Adding to the confusion, wine has become way more expensive, outgrowing inflation by 3 times in the past 20 years. Moreover, you have absolutely no innovation on the retail side of wine, particularly tackling the main problem of wine is matching your personal taste and understanding your personal taste. So we created a complete new service, which is experience-based, explaining your personal profile with a digital taste. So it's basically wine learning in a fast track. We made it very easy and simple to customize your subscription, and we added a lot of wine learning features, such as videos of the winemakers of the wines you receive. But before anything else, we match wine to your personal taste. So how we do that is with the help of 12 PhDs, wine experts, we've created a unique data science model around taste and wine using more than 200 traits found in wine. And we use blind tasting. That enables us basically to figure out your personal taste and then ship wines according to your specific taste. We have launched last year as an app. We now have very strong traction, growing 40% a month. June is probably going to be 60% growth. The best news is that the customers are very sticky. We have very low churn. Actually, every month our churn is going lower. And ratings go up. Yeah, it's growing fast. We have multiple layer strategy in marketing. We do online as well as offline with retail. We have a very specific blind tasting box to start with. And the team is a team of professionals of online e-commerce. I myself built 4 companies before, a $100 million e-commerce business before that, and a very strong CTO who is like a specialist on machine learning and data science. Thank you.
So, great presentation, thank you. I have so many questions around these numbers. Thank you for showing them. So let's start with one easy one. So to understand a little bit better the user experience, it seems like you have 2 things going on in your app. On one side, you have a subscription. On the other side, people rate bottles or like brands of wine. Is that accurate?
Yeah, so the way it works, it's a B2C model. The subscription is based only on the wines you choose. You choose a price range, you choose basically how many whites, etc., and the frequency, and that's the subscription. You can change any time. So the average basket right now is about $1,000 a year. So with strong margins, because wine business has strong margins. The main experience starts with a blind tasting box, which is 4 half bottles. We only use half bottles for the beginning to make it faster. So they're wrapped by a tissue like this, and they have numbers. So you start with 1, 2, 3, 4. And the customer only has to rate them from 1 to 5. And because the wines are polarizing and because we entered more than 30 data points per bottle, we build your first profile right after that. The good part of that is that we figured the experience is very fun for people, so they do it with their friends, and we start to see there's a big word-of-mouth effect, which also goes into lowering our customer acquisition cost.
Gotcha. And I receive bottles how often? Every week, every month?
So the average subscription is 1.5 months, so every 6 weeks, and the average basket is $117 per shipment. So the shipments arrive, so the gamification continues because you receive different numbers based on what we found out on your profile. As you continue to rate, your profile gets more accurate. So your digital taste basically is shown, and that could be applied to many other things, not only wine. So the end game of this might be to go beyond wine and sell all sorts of premium foods and beverage based through blind tasting, but on your profile.
Okay. And then moving on to churn, that's a very low churn figure.
Yes, the industry has usually a much higher churn.
How does that happen?
It's between 10 and 20%.
Right.
Well, I think there's 2 reasons. One is what the customer gets by every time he rates bottles, his profile updates, he gets classical wine regions matched. He always learns more. And the second reason is that we focused only on quality and premium segment, as opposed to most of the market, which did a lower range. So it's $17 a bottle to $60. So that enables us to sell very good wine, curated, and then matched to your taste. We can see that the customers are happy because the average rating goes up at every shipment in average. So basically, the technology works.
Okay. And so registered profiles versus monthly sessions, that's about like 4 sessions per registered user on average per month.
Yes, well, that's a mix, of course, of new users coming in.
And there would be power law distribution, so there will be power users which will be more engaged, and then people that will be less engaged. Do they come back on a weekly-ish basis just to rate bottles, or is there something else?
So 1/3 of our subscribers are power users, which come about once a week every time they actually drink a bottle of one we ship. Then we have 1/3 who come about once a month, and then we have 1/3 who almost not using the product, and this is what we are trying to do now, because when they're using the product, they don't leave. The only guys who leave are those who are not using it. So we are working a lot on tutorials right now, so to explain the product, to all the benefits of having value of the wine. To make it very simple, our pitch to the customers is if you go randomly in a wine store and you choose a $20 bottle of wine, you have a 10% chance to have a good value bottle which matches your taste.
Right.
And with Palette Club, that number goes to 90%, basically. So that's the value for the customer.
Do you act as a wholesaler, or how's
So there's a lot of regulations in wine. So we have import, wholesale, and online retail license. So we import, we buy from wineries directly, and we sell directly to the customer, cutting basically all the wholesale and retail distribution. And so I'm not going to go into the details, but the Supreme Court rules today about online retail.
Oh.
So there's ways to avoid in certain states, but it might happen that today they oblige all states in the United States to accept interstate shipping, which will make us grow faster, basically.
So time is up, but one super quick question. So 10K in May 2019, 200K by end of this year. That's a very aggressive goal. How are you going to do that?
Yeah, well, we are growing 50% a month. This month is 60%. We are opening new channels and big partnerships this summer. So our growth is going to go way, way higher. And particularly, we just received our beautiful box to start with, and that is opening gifting platforms, and it's opening retail as well, which are, for us, they are zero customer acquisition costs.
Okay.
So we can push it as much as we want. So, and also the channels we work right now, we're opening 10 new states this summer, and we were only shipping to California. Just because of that, just when we acquire, like right now, about 5 to 6 subscribers a day, just by opening new states by September, that number is going to be 20, 25 per day, just with the same channels. So more channels and widespread in geography that will make us grow probably even higher than this, but I don't like to show.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, Perceive.
Great, good job.
Thank you. I know everybody wants to get to lunch, so we'll make this really effective and just vote for us. So, what Perceive is about is, my name is Karen Saleh, and I'm the co-founder of Perceive. And what we do is we do spatial intelligence. We enable companies to be able to relive their visitors' experience. Today, companies have this insatiable need for data. They just can't get enough of it. And to be honest, we actually, as individuals, feed it. So each day, we give companies over 50 gigs of information for them to mine, to utilize. What's happening today, though, is there's legislation that's coming about and saying, guess what? You can't have all of that. So companies are looking elsewhere. How can I get that same data, but somewhere else? And that place is in the physical world. If I go to a store, if I'm at a co-working, if I'm in manufacturing, I still can find out information about the visitor. But today it only sits here at 5 gigs. So companies have sat and they've said, we'd like you to come and create new technology, new ways of thinking about this that will actually take that 5 gig of data to 50 gig. And so that's exactly what Perceive has done. Perceive has said, we're going to create an anonymous way for people to interact with their data. And we do this by a computer vision engine that allows people to gather the information, how people are behaving, what are they doing, and then we don't just leave it in a dashboard. We actually allow you to have a VR interactive experience with your data. So what does that look like? That looks like I'm a co-working space, and all of a sudden, everyone's leaving at 2 o'clock. I see an anomaly on my dashboard. Today, They have no idea. They're just guessing. But with Perceive, you can click on that, and you're launched directly into a VR experience where you're the avatar, and you can look at what's happening. And you can realize that Dandelion Chocolate is having a sale. So at 2 o'clock, they give away their samples. So everyone's going to getting the samples and then coming back. So as a co-working place, you could invite Dandelion in and realize that information. So what Perceive is doing is we're changing the way businesses deal with analytics. We're making it an interactive 3D experience.
Thank you. So thank you for your presentation. I'm not sure I understood whether this is a B2C play or a B2B play. Who's your customer?
Our customers are in different verticals. The different verticals would be retail. It's a B2B play. Retail, public institutions, which would be a museum, would be a library. We also work as far as workplaces, manufacturing. So any commercial space would be a customer.
Okay. And their goal as B2B entities would be to sell
So the
more,
goal for
or-
the so if I'm a museum, my goal is to improve my customer interaction, so my visitor.
Okay.
So what I would do is I would track what pictures are people looking at, so I can actually drive additional value coming in. If I'm a co-working space, I want to drive people's satisfaction, so I need to understand, do I have enough co-working desks for them to sit at? Do I have enough places for them to stand? So how people use their environment, you can actually drive better customer satisfaction, so you increase your revenue and reduce your cost.
Okay. And you sell the hardware as well on top of this software, I'm assuming?
We do both. We can leverage existing cameras, or we
Okay.
can also implement our own cameras.
So it's camera-based, pretty much.
Pardon? It is camera-based.
Okay.
And so we have raised over $1 million from the NSF and have production version product that is also certified, as well as an AI computer vision engine.
How far along are you with that? Like how much, you know?
So we are in production, and
Okay.
we're at the 9th largest museum. And so we have beachheads in cities, beachhead in public institutions, and a beachhead in workplaces.
So you have a few pilot customers.
We have actually, we're past the pilot stage, and we're actually in paid implementation.
Oh, okay. How much are they paying you?
The retail price is $20,000, but we've discounted it, $20K a year, but we've
Okay.
discounted in exchange for a logo, customer reference,
Okay.
as well as case studies.
How do you define success, and how do your customers, your initial customers define success?
Our initial customers define success by understanding their environment. So, for example, the museum, they currently don't know how many people are in their galleries. And
Okay.
so what they want to do is target the gallery owner for additional donation. So by being able to send an email directly to them to say, we've had so much excitement in your gallery, Mr. Very Big Donor Check. We've had 400 people in. They love the Cezanne. We're looking to have a special exhibit. Would you like to sponsor that? And today they can't do that.
So it's a better way to measure foot traffic, like simplifying and dumbing it down to some degree.
It does foot traffic, but it goes beyond that, because what are they looking at?
Okay.
What are they interacting with? So I can tell if I'm actually looking at a picture. If I'm in a co-working space, I can see if I'm sitting or I'm standing. How are you actually dealing with your environment? But more importantly, it's really being able to have an avatar go in and look at their whole experience, and being able to experience past historical video data through an avatar's eyes.
Okay.
Does it also send like a notification in a sense if it sees an anomaly, or
Absolutely. So
learning?
we do notifications as well as workflow.
for irregularities?
Yes.
And then does it learn as far as patterns? In the case of retail, I'm assuming that if someone's looking at the sweater, then they might also buy these boots. How does it understand those correlations, or does it learn?
Yes, so it is a computer vision and AI engine, so it does learn. In addition to that, it also has the analytics on top of it, so you can ask questions to it as well.
So you have how many initial customers you said? 5, 6?
We have about 10.
Okay, so about like 150 to 200K in revenue?
More or less.
Okay, that's also interesting information from an investment standpoint. One thing I'm curious about, so there is this whole wave of new, machine learning enabled video solutions for businesses. One thing that's, people are starting to become more sensitive to and will be more and more as they realize they are recorded is, the privacy angle. Like how are they recorded and, which conditions and what's being done with, the data about themselves.
Absolutely.
How do you think about that?
So that's actually our number one priority is anonymity. And so what we do is you actually have to actively identify someone's face. And so what we do is that is not part of our algorithms. What we're interested in is the behavior component.
Okay.
And so we do not do any facial recognition. So similar to LiveRamp or other large data sets, they aggregate based upon characteristics, and that's what we do the same.
Sure, yeah, no PII data, so personally identifiable information, and you're pretty much digitalizing the offline world interactions.
Absolutely. And for us, what's really important is that we do this in the cloud, and we are working with different vendors to do 5G. And what that really does is it opens up the fact that all of this can be real time. So if there was a problem in manufacturing, I could go real time into historical and be an avatar and look at the problems that are occurring.
Okay.
And that doesn't exist today.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. All right, Zen Sports.
Thank you.
Clicker.
Oh, that would be good. That would be helpful. Hello, my name is Mark Thomas. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Zen Sports. Most people, when they think of sports betting, they think of some big, burly guy named Guido who's going to come to your apartment and knock your kneecaps out unless you pay off your gambling debts. Well, the reality is that sports betting is actually a $120 billion, highly regulated industry worldwide. Even the United States, which is notoriously conservative when it comes to gambling and or sports betting. Recently, last year, the Supreme Court authorized states to begin legalizing sports betting, and 12 states already have done so. But despite the fact that it's a highly regulated, huge industry, there still exists a ton of problems within the sports betting world, especially with online sportsbooks. So let's say you're interested in placing a bet on this weekend's game. You find a pretty reputable online offshore sportsbook to place a bet with. First, you have to send your funds into that account. It's probably going to take anywhere from 3 to 5 days to get your account funded. Then you have to trust the fact that that sportsbook is actually going to pay you out when they say they will. And lastly, the house always wins, right? They only make money when you lose, which means they're always going to set the odds in their favor and against you. Well, here comes Zen Sports. We've built the only fully decentralized, peer-to-peer mobile sports betting app where anybody with a few taps of a button can sign up, create an account, and create and accept bets with anybody else in the world. You get to set your own odds and terms for any kind of sports bet that you want. You want to bet that the Giants are going to win the World Series at 1,001 odds? Go for it. Even more fun? You want to bet that the Giants are going to wear their black unis this weekend? That's even more fun. You can do that also. And we make it super easy to deposit funds using cryptocurrencies and credit cards where you get your account funded in minutes. Oh, and we're the only approved mobile app for sports betting on the App and Play Store. In just a couple of months since launching, we've achieved several regulatory and other KPI traction metrics. On the regulatory side, we've obtained several international licenses that allow us to operate internationally. We've also are in the process of receiving US-based licenses as well that will allow us to operate here. And as I mentioned, we're one of the only mobile sports betting apps in the App and Play Store. Again, in just a couple months since launching, we've had over 4,000 bets that have been accepted and created. We're actually doing now over 150,000 in betting volume per month. Our customer acquisition cost is really low, and customers are actually spending quite a bit of money with us. And our average payback on our customer acquisition cost is very quick as well. So we're currently raising a $1.5 million seed round, of which 250,000 of it is already closed. Definitely come talk to me if you want to be part of the exciting future world of sports betting. Again, my name is Mark Thomas from Zen Sports, and I want to thank you for your time.
Thank you. I'll start.
Go ahead.
So I'm curious about, so the regulation is a big, like huge part of this. So want to double click a second and talk about the international licenses that you were mentioning about?
Yeah, so let's forget about the United States for a second because it's a whole nother animal. Each state is almost like its own country when it comes to regulatory for sports betting. So we have a Coruscant license, which allows us to operate in approximately over 70 countries. We have another 25 countries that look at us as skill-based gaming since we are peer-to-peer and we are not a bookmaker at all. We are close to obtaining a UK gaming license, which we should have this summer, which will allow us to operate in most European countries. And then we are actually seeing a really huge influx of customers from Africa because not all of them have laptops, but they all have smartphones. And so they may not be able to use traditional bookmakers because they don't have a laptop to go online, but they do have their smartphone. So we're in the process of also obtaining some African licenses too. So we're moving pretty quickly on that front on the regulatory side of things.
I think you mentioned average value of the customer is $450?
Per year. That's the fees that we receive. So we charge an average of 3% for all bets that get created in our app. So the actual real volume that customers are doing is approximately $15,000 a year in betting volume, which is about $450 a year in fees that we collect.
The lister of the bet pays the fee?
Both the lister and the acceptor. So we charge 2% to the maker for creating a bet and 4% to the taker for accepting a bet. So we give you a slight price break if you add liquidity to the marketplace, and we charge a little bit more if you remove liquidity from the marketplace. Similar to any kind of other trading platform that you might see out there.
Yeah, the big one is Betfair, right, out there when it comes to peer-to-peer betting.
But even Betfair still has components of a bookmaker.
Right.
They're still a bookmaker. We are not. We, in fact, don't even get involved in the submitting of results. The betting marketplace actually handles submitting of results, and we have a full penalty and reward system in place to make sure that everyone acts in good faith.
Mm-hmm.
Can a bet be accepted by multiple people?
Yes, absolutely. So again, it's very similar to a trading platform. You create a bet for $100. One person could accept it for $100. 20 people could accept it for $5 each. Minimum bet's $1, so it could be up to 100 people that accept it for $1 each.
One question around the blockchain element, right? We hear a lot about blockchain companies these days. What is it that makes, blockchain necessary for what you're doing and kind of irreplaceable?
Right. So I didn't really talk too much about that. Right now, we are semi-decentralized in the fact that we are not a bookmaker or getting involved in the making or taking of bets right now at all. But our app is not yet built on smart contracts on the blockchain. They're still on our own servers. Eventually, we want to make this fully decentralized and put this on the blockchain. We really believe that betting and gaming is one of the first best use cases of blockchain because it creates a truly trustless and transparent system where everyone can see what's going on. So the move is going to be in the next 6 to 12 months to take a lot of the existing betting contracts that people create within our app and move those to smart contracts on the blockchain.
Okay. Good. Those 4,000 customers, I think you mentioned?
We have a few thousand users, of which we have about 125 or so paying customers.
Where are they? How did they find about you? And how do you see, customer acquisition scaling, 10x where you are?
Right, so we basically spent nothing on marketing up to this point. That's a big part of what we'll be using this funding for. Right now, it's almost all fully word of mouth. We're doing a lot of content marketing. For example, we are providing tips and calls and betting expertise, as well as sports tips out there, and driving a lot of content that way. In fact, we actually feel there's a big opportunity to create a subscription business around that content, and we plan on doing so in the next couple of months as well. But right now, our customer acquisition cost is almost entirely word of mouth. We're doing a couple of Facebook ads, which is why we actually do have an actual customer acquisition cost, but we're only spending about $1,200 a month on marketing right now.
And where do you see like the vast majority of the customers coming from in terms of geographic?
Yeah, so geography, Africa, Southeast Asia, and Australia are our three biggest markets. Okay. Europe is a pretty saturated, mature market. We will probably expand there at some point, but we're really kind of focused on emerging markets where there's not a lot of good technology companies already servicing them.
And probably like an angle to this is also the fact that you guys are mobile first. So for those areas, for those regions, you know, it's more interesting something that's mobile first versus that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome.
Cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay, Flo, our last one.
I get the opportunity of being last. I'm Jason Marsh, and the company is Flow Immersive, and we're building a spatial communication platform. And it's all live demos today. Let's hear it for some live code, right? Woo! So, yeah. So let's dig right into what is PowerPoint, why is it a problem? So 30 million PowerPoints are supposedly delivered every single day. I'm sure there's a lot of Prezis and other slideware delivered as well. The problem is it doesn't stick. If you take an image and put it in front of somebody's visual cortex and it disappears, and you do it again and again and again, it violates your brain's natural way of organizing information. Turns out we organize our information spatially using this little thing called our hippocampus. So the hippocampus is this little organ in our brain. It gives us our spatial awareness, and it's tied directly to our memory. Think about a mouse running through a maze, thinking about a mouse finding its food in the real world. If you're familiar with something called the memory palace technique, it's a way to memorize 1,000 digits of pi, right? So it turns out that if you take this content, and we really are talking about enterprise content here, this is a business environment, and you put it into a spatial environment using AR, augmented reality, or virtual reality, now you've got something that will stick. So let's just say that Flow is a spatial communication platform for data storytelling. Let me talk about data real quick. So if you're going to do a great presentation, you need data today. Big data is a real challenge for our customers, for both financial services and the consultancies. So this is a quick example of just a little bit of a visualization from one of our biggest customers, which is BlackRock, which is using Flow both from a big screen presentation environment and putting it onto phones in the audience, as well as into VR. So real quick, we've been in business about 3 years. We're an enterprise SaaS software company. We are looking to raise, in order to take the solutions that we've built more into the head-mounted augmented reality space, and also to advertise this more, to execute on our marketing plan to extend our existing customer base. Thank you.
So, sorry?
Go for it.
Yeah.
So Google just acquired Looker. Was Looker a competitor?
So that's exactly what this graph helps us to describe. So great first question, right? So we see ourselves more in the PowerPoint, in the communication space of data visualization than the data analysis space. When you see it on the screen, it may look kind of similar, but it's actually a totally different use case. How do you communicate more effectively? And you can tell that we're not just doing data, right? So that's an important piece of the puzzle. We're also we have what we call the Flow editor, which enables anyone to build these things. And even Looker is still really a tool for data scientists as opposed to everyday enterprise users. So for example, this presentation was built, most of it this morning, with the Flow editor. And so you can see him click around a little bit.
How do you charge?
We're, as an enterprise SaaS software company. We have, of course, a subscription model for the editor and a professional services. So far, we have funded most of the business through customers doing professional services. And the Flow editor is a new addition. It's still beta, and we're only starting to charge for that. We think we have our first customer in for the Flow editor, but really we still feel it's kind of beta.
What's the price point on that?
On the Flow editor, for a small number of users, 1 to 2 users in an enterprise, we seem to be getting good feedback around $200 a month. But once you get up, beyond even 5 or 6 users, drop it down to more like $50 per month per user.
So just to understand, you guys have been an enterprise SaaS business before for the past 3 years, but this is the new product that you guys are launching? Or like?
Yes, well,
okay.
From day one, every line of code has been written in order to build a SaaS product.
Okay.
But we have been funding it by using customers,
Okay.
which is a great way to do it because customers are going to tell you what's needed.
For sure.
And to build an editor before you know what the editor should be producing would have been a mistake.
So you have an existing customer base, but this is a new product that you're launching soon, or it's already out there?
It's already out there. Anybody
Okay.
can go to flow.gl and sign up and play with it. But we're not charging for it yet until we feel like it's.
So how many beta customers are on this, and how you're thinking about going to market? I'm assuming you're going to use the existing customer base. How many customers is that? And talk about the go-to-market part a little bit.
So we have, depending on where you are in the customer cycle, we've got about 8 paid customers today. But really, we don't think of, that's for service business.
Right.
And we don't think of those as one and done. We think of those as long-term process. Like BlackRock is a really good example of that, actually, for us. And then the tool, we have not marketed at all still, and it's to feel it's early. We have hundreds of users, but like I say, they're not paid today.
Okay. So one thing I'm curious about is, what's the use case that you guys see emerging from a product like this, right? Because on one side, you're competing with slides. On the other side, you're competing with dashboards. And so, how is this position, and what's the best use case for something like this from an enterprise perspective?
Well, let's hit the broad vision, right? Which is, right now you're in a conference room in an enterprise, and you've got PowerPoint on a screen off to the side.
Right.
But what you really want to do is have that human connection, have that eye contact with the people around you. If we can take this information and put it over the conference room table, or on the conference room table, and everybody can interact with it and work with it in that format, then it's a totally different vision for how we communicate, especially how we communicate those really hard problems that society needs to fix right now. Being able to step into the data, understand the details, be able to step out to see the full context. We call it seeing the forest and the trees at the same time.
Right. So you're betting big. Essentially, this is at the intersection of PowerPoint and Tableau for the AR-enabled world. Would that be?
That is true, and I would admit today that we're in VR with just a VR environment,
right,
and a flat screen environment, that we're a little ahead of the market.
Right.
But BlackRock is using it on a big screen, on phones with little clip-ons.
Huh. How many users?
In full audiences, and in VR at advanced situations.
How many users do BlackRock have on this? Or what are some of the success KPIs that you guys are measuring with them?
Still early.
Okay.
So we shipped the first version of the first event was in February. They are giving it in large scenarios now, including Shanghai. And they have trained 100 in the last couple of weeks. They've trained 100 financial advisors to use these with their phones with investors. So it's too early to have those metrics.
Okay. Thank you.
Good question.
Cool.
Thank you.
Good.
All right, Mondo, that was pretty cool, right?
Yeah, it was fun.
Well,
Hope you guys enjoyed it.
So you guys get to vote. The top 3 teams come back in the afternoon and pitch the investor panel. Instructions are here.
Choose well.
Choose well. And it's basically which company has the highest chance of success. That's kind of the measure. Are you gonna vote? Gonna vote?
Oh, yeah? Let's see.
You just get one. You get one vote, and the top three go on to the.
Will emerge from the group, pretty much.
Yeah.
The code is that one, 672115. Oh, real-time updates. Look at that.
I don't like it. It influences people.
A little bit. Let's cover it.
We have a tie for third place.
Oh, good enough.
Tie for third place. All right, come on. We can wrap up, and then you'll know who won. All right, we're gonna take a break. Sandwiches and lunch in the other room.
So, wait a second. If that's it, is it it? Not it. Not it?
We got 38 seconds, 37.
We have three very good candidates,
Yeah.
apparently. So Zen Sport 1, Holistic Care 2, and Palette Club.
Oh.
Oh, but maybe not. Look at that. This is very exciting.
What do we do if it's a tie?
Uh-oh, there's a tie. We need a tiebreaker.
All right, we've never had a tie, so that's interesting. All right, we will figure it out and let you know. But that's
Thank you,
awesome.
everyone.
So Holistic Air and Palette Club, you're in, and then we'll decide what to do with my buddy and Zen Sport. That's hilarious.
All
First
four of
tie
them.
ever.
Let's be inclusive.
Yeah.